Breaking news this midday, we've learned the Commonwealth's Lieutenant Governor has bigger plans. Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears has filed paperwork to run for Virginia Governor in 2025. Tonight on Your Side's Lauren Martinez joins us now from the WAVY control room with those details. Lauren.
Lieutenant Governor Sears' statement of organization paperwork that's needed to launch a campaign was accepted by the Virginia Department of Elections yesterday. Sears was expected to jump into the governor's race and recently acknowledged she was exploring a run. She's the first Republican to submit paperwork to run for the party's nomination in the 2025 election. And on the other side of the fence, last November, U.S. Representative Abigail Spanberger officially launched her campaign for the Democratic nomination in next year's gubernatorial race. Spanberger is the only Democrat currently vying for the nomination after Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney dropped his bid to run for lieutenant governor. Sears is the first woman of color and only the second woman to hold statewide office in the Commonwealth. This evening, Lieutenant Governor Sears is making an appearance in Virginia Beach with a special announcement. We are working to learn if the event is connected to her run for governor next year. It's happening tonight at Chick's Oyster Bar at 6 p.m. Our team will be on site and will bring you the latest coverage. Live in the control room, Lauren Martinez, 10 on Your Side.
10 on Your Side is your local election headquarters. While the Virginia gubernatorial race isn't until 2025, the Republican Party officially has its first candidate, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears. She made the official announcement earlier tonight in Virginia Beach. 10 on Your Side's Markeisha Jackson was there.
Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears made that announcement here in Virginia Beach to a crowd full of supporters, all eager for November 2025.
I am running for governor of our great Commonwealth of Virginia.
The Republican Party now has its first candidate for nomination in the 2025 Virginia governor race. It's Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears, and she's no stranger to Hampton Roads. A former state delegate who represented Norfolk, Earle-Sears presides over the Virginia Senate in her role as lieutenant governor. She's the first woman of color and only the second woman to hold statewide office in the Commonwealth. It's a role she says has prepared her for this next step.
We have brought safety and security to our families and to our businesses. We treat criminals like criminals.
Using tonight's rally to talk about issues she will continue to focus on: taxes, school safety, and more support for veterans, all issues important to her supporters.
Economy and education and progression for our students once they finish high school.
Abortion, different things like that, trying to bring the gas prices down.
On the other side of the fence is U.S. Representative Abigail Spanberger, who is the only Democrat currently vying for the nomination after Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney dropped his bid. Other possible Republican candidates could be Jason Miyares, the Commonwealth's Attorney General. As for Earle-Sears, she says she expects a long road ahead and more stops in our area in the future.
What issues are paramount to you as you start this campaign for governor?
Gotta go. Thank y'all. Hey, it's a beautiful.
The governor's election will take place on November 4th, 2025, so there is still plenty of time for other politicians to join the race. In Virginia Beach, Markeisha Jackson, 10 on Your Side.
Well, 10 on Your Side is your local election headquarters. The Republican Party of Virginia announced that Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears secured the Republican nomination for governor of Virginia today. Her campaign is calling this a historic victory, as Earle-Sears is the Commonwealth's first black woman to be a Republican nominee for governor. Her competitor on the Democratic side is Abigail Spanberger.
Campaign finance reports are out, and they show a big disparity in the race for Virginia governor. Democratic nominee Abigail Spanberger more than doubled the amount of money Republican nominee Winsome Earle-Sears raised in the first quarter of 2025. But 10 on Your Side's Tyler Englander tells us there's a catch.
Although one political analyst I spoke to says it might not tell the whole story, it's important to note that Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears was prohibited from raising money during the 45-day General Assembly session earlier this year. New campaign finance reports show Democratic gubernatorial candidate Abigail Spanberger is outpacing her Republican opponent, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears. Spanberger raising over $6.7 million in the first quarter of 2025. Meanwhile, Sears raised about $3.1 million.
Abigail Spanberger has a pretty easy story to tell which is about democratic enthusiasm. On the other hand, I think Winsome Sears is able to say, like, look, I'm raising millions of dollars too. It's not like this is a long shot campaign with no hope.
Spanberger's haul brings her cash on hand advantage to around $7 million. Randolph-Macon political science professor Rich Marr saying that Spanberger's money edge over Sears could be because Virginia is one of only 2 states with a governor's race on the ballot this year.
And if an American Democrat in North Carolina or California or North Dakota is mad about what Donald Trump is doing, they can't do very much about that right now in terms of campaigns unless they look to Virginia or New Jersey.
Marr adding that Spanberger is likely to use most of that money on TV and mobile ads.
As the funding imbalance gets bigger and bigger, it not only enables Spanberger to tell her own story better than Sears, it enables Spanberger a little leeway to tell a story about Winsome Sears.
Regent University is preparing for the university's 45th commencement ceremony this weekend. And a former student and current state leader will be the keynote speaker. We're talking about the 42nd Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Earle-Sears. Sears earned her master's degree in organizational leadership at the university back in 2003, was named the Regent University Alumni of the Year in 2022, and was selected as a recipient of the Distinguished Statesman Award in 2023. Talk about accomplished.
And Spanberger's opponent, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears, has already started to run ads for her campaign. She's also scheduled to be the commencement speaker at Regent University Saturday. And again, like you said, we have reached out to the Lieutenant Governor and her team about scheduling a one-on-one interview with her as well. They just have not responded yet. But as soon as they do, we'll make sure to bring you that on air and on WAVY.com.
The race for governor is picking up online and on your television screen.
And that's because Democratic nominee Abigail Spanberger and Republican nominee Winsome Earle-Sears are both out with new campaign ads. Capitol Bureau reporter Tyler Englander explains how both candidates are trying to reach voters.
Both ads really start with the basics, both Spanberger and Sears using the time to talk about their backgrounds and introduce themselves to voters. Tonight, Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Earle-Sears are trying to make a name for themselves.
It's not some people, it's a majority of people really have no idea who Spanberger and Earle-Sears actually are.
Both candidates releasing new campaign ads in an attempt to woo voters ahead of the November election.
Both of their ads are what we call bio spots. They're biographical. They fill people in on at least the positive aspects of their careers.
Spanberger portraying herself as a political moderate with a background in law enforcement and the intelligence community. Larry Sabato, director of the University of Virginia's Center for Politics, explains her strategy.
It's competitive enough so that a Democrat, especially at this time when the Democratic Party nationally is flat on its back, it's important to stress the moderate credentials.
Meanwhile, Earle-Sears talks about her experience as a Marine and portrays herself as a political outsider.
She was trying to say, hey, my opponent, her main credential, at least in elective office, is as a member of Congress, and nobody likes Congress.
Both ads will air on TV in the Richmond and Norfolk markets. Sabato says that's because those two regions will be critical in determining who wins the governor's race in November. At the state capitol, I'm Tyler Englander.
On your side is your local election headquarters. Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears, who is running to succeed Governor Glenn Youngkin, traveled to Newport News Shipbuilding. The Republican candidate took issue with CNBC dropping Virginia from 1 to number 4 as the best state in which to do business, due in part to federal workforce layoffs. She also spoke about President Trump's speech back in March, pushing new emphasis on shipbuilding.
In Virginia, we have actually created over 15,000 new business startups that never existed, and they're extremely high paying. We have over 200,000 jobs that are still open. President Trump has begun a new, not ever existed, Office of Shipbuilding, because he recognizes the importance to national security of having our ships ready and available.
Earle-Sears also noted President Trump's proposal to create a United States Office of Shipbuilding designed to boost our defense industrial base.
10 on your side is your local election headquarters, and President Donald Trump says he would endorse Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears in the Virginia governor's race. The president made the remarks yesterday, and Tyler Englander.
When President Donald Trump was asked if he would endorse Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears in the Virginia governor's race, he said he would, but stopped short of making any sort of official endorsement. Tonight, political analysts are reacting.
The happiest person about Trump's endorsement of Winsome Earle-Sears is Winsome Earle-Sears. But the second happiest person is Abigail Spanberger.
After President Donald Trump said he would endorse Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears in the race for governor.
Yeah, I would. I would. I think probably she's got a tough race, but I would, yeah.
Larry Sabato, director of the University of Virginia's Center for Politics, says Earle-Sears could use a potential Trump endorsement to her advantage to shore up support within the Republican Party.
What she has to do is stress this with Republican crowds. And there's so many ways to do it today, through streaming and digital advertising and every other way that you reach people as individuals rather than as groups.
However, Sabato says Earle-Sears shouldn't make a Trump endorsement a central part of her campaign.
Trump has lost decisively 3 times in Virginia. 5 points, 10 points, 6 points. Those are not close races, especially not in this era.
In response to the president's comments, a spokesperson for Sears' opponent, Democratic nominee Abigail Spanberger, said, quote, "While Winsome Earle-Sears is spending her time defending Trump's reckless assault on Virginia's jobs, price-raising tariffs, and senseless attacks on Medicaid, Abigail Spanberger will continue rolling out plans focused on lowering costs for Virginia families, protecting Virginia's economy, and strengthening Virginia's public schools." In Richmond, I'm Tyler Englander.
We are your local election headquarters. We reported yesterday both Virginia gubernatorial candidates agreed to participate in a debate hosted by 10 on your side. Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Earle-Sears will face off at Norfolk State University in October. Capitol Bureau reporter Tyler Englander breaks down what's at stake for both women.
The October debate is the only time that Spanberger and Earle-Sears are scheduled to go head-to-head, something Virginia Tech political science professor Karen Holt says each candidate will have to approach differently. Holt saying the top priority for the perceived frontrunner Abigail Spanberger will be not making a huge mistake. Holt saying that's what happened to Terry McAuliffe in a 2021 debate, which could have played a role in his loss to Governor Glenn Youngkin. Meanwhile, Holt says Earle-Sears will attempt to reintroduce herself to voters in an attempt to get them to rethink her candidacy.
One thing that they both are going to have to do is really pay attention to what the issues are that voters seem to want to hear more about. And that, as always in a gubernatorial race, is going to be the Virginia economy, fears about the economy, as well as positive statements about the economy.
The debate will take place on October 9th at 7 p.m. at the state capitol. I'm Tyler Englander.
And on your side is your local election headquarters. In less than 80 days, many across the Commonwealth will head to the polls to select a new state leader. And regardless of who wins, it will be a historical election. That's because the Commonwealth has never had a female governor. Republican Winsome Earle-Sears is taking on Democratic Abigail Spanberger. According to her campaign, Spanberger supports growing the state, strengthening the schools, and making Virginia more affordable. On the other hand, Lieutenant Governor Sears supports the military and our veterans, and she is also a relentless voice for educational freedom and economic opportunity. Election day is Tuesday, November 4th. Virginia leaders on both sides are speaking out against a racist sign targeting Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears at a school board meeting in Arlington. Here's the story.
One person at the rally was holding a sign with a racist statement targeted at Earle-Sears. Photos began circulating online. We got this one from the Earle-Sears campaign. In it, the sign reads, quote, "Hey Winsome, if trans can't use your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain." This sign has brought a whirlwind of reactions, including from Earle-Sears herself. She says on X, "I'm disgusted but not surprised. This is the tolerant left Abigail Spanberger defends." She continues, "There is no place for this disgusting hatred in our Commonwealth. Anyone who doesn't condemn this sign is complicit in approving it." Governor Glenn Youngkin also credits the left for the sentiments on the sign. He says on X, "The hypocrisy of the liberal left on display again. Winsome is so much bigger than this idiocy." A spokesperson for Earle-Sears' opponent and Democratic nominee for governor, Abigail Spanberger, says to 8 News, "Abigail condemns this repulsive display. It's racist, abhorrent, and unacceptable."
10 on your side is your local election headquarters this Labor Day. The holiday means we're entering the final sprint to Election Day in Virginia. Both Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Earle-Sears are hoping to win over voters in the campaign's final days. Capitol Bureau reporter Tyler Englander has more.
Randolph-Macon political science professor Rich Marr says Labor Day is often considered the unofficial start to campaign season because it's the last chance for candidates to make their final pitches to voters. With Election Day a little more than 2 months away, Randolph-Macon political science professor Rich Marr says campaigns in Virginia are feeling the pressure.
Every mistake is heightened, every bad message, every waste of dollars, it matters more than it did 6 months ago.
Marr saying with Labor Day marking the unofficial start to the campaign season, it's a chance for Republicans, including gubernatorial nominee Winsome Earle-Sears, to hit reset and show voters a unified front. The campaigns began with infighting between Earle-Sears and the party's lieutenant governor nominee, John Reed.
After a difficult year, I think they're saying that we can do this. Let's actually kind of come together, invest some resources, put some effort in. Maybe this election is winnable.
Meanwhile, Marr says perceived gubernatorial frontrunner Democrat Abigail Spanberger will likely focus on hammering home her message while doing everything she can to avoid making a race-altering mistake.
I don't know if she has this sign up in her campaign, but if I were her manager, I would have the "Don't Screw This Up" sign right there, big on the wall in her campaign headquarters.
Now, Marr adds in the past, candidates had more time to reach voters after Labor Day. But with early voting set to begin on September 19th, campaigns have to be more intentional about reaching as many voters as possible, as early as possible at the state capitol. I'm Tyler Englander.
10 on your side is your local election headquarters. With exactly 2 months until Election Day, education and gender identity issues are set to play a big role in the race for governor. This week, Winsome Earle-Sears is out with a new ad calling into question Spanberger's record on the issue. And Spanberger is seemingly responding with an ad of her own. Tyler Englander has more on what this ad war is all about.
Republican gubernatorial nominee Winsome Earle-Sears is attacking Democrat Abigail Spanberger over her previous positions on various LGBTQ issues. But today, Spanberger fired back. Tonight, Winsome Earle-Sears releasing a new ad highlighting Democrat Abigail Spanberger's previous support for the Equality Act, which Earle-Sears says would have allowed, quote, men and girls sports, bathrooms, and locker rooms.
Sears is trying to capitalize on what Donald Trump proved in 2024 was a potent campaign issue.
Earle-Sears also claiming that if a student identifies as transgender in school, Spanberger supports school staff hiding that from the students' parents. Larry Sabato is the director of the University of Virginia's Center for Politics.
Even in heavily Democratic areas like Northern Virginia, there's a sizable portion of the population that does not favor the full integration of trans students into women's sports, for example, or locker rooms and all the rest.
However, on Thursday, Spanberger fired back in an ad of her own, implying Earle-Sears' attacks are, quote, lies. The Democratic nominee saying during her career in law enforcement, she, quote, went after child predators. And as a mother of 3 girls in public school, quote, nothing matters to me more than the safety of all of our kids.
Whether Spanberger's answer, which is kind of a soft way of approaching it, I love my daughters and I wouldn't allow my daughters to be hurt, whether that works or not, we'll have to see. If it doesn't, she's going to have to take a stronger stand, probably alienate at least some small portion of the Democratic electorate.
And now these ads do come at a critical time, with early voting set to begin in a few weeks on September 19th. In Richmond, I'm Tyler Englander.
Republican gubernatorial candidate Winsome Earle-Sears was in Virginia Beach this afternoon meeting with sheriffs throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia.
She met with media afterwards, announcing her endorsements from 81 sheriffs across the state. 10 on Your Side asked the lieutenant governor about the attack ads by her opponent Abigail Spanberger, and Earle-Sears did not hold back.
If they were true, that'd be wonderful, but they're all lies, and that tells me that my opponent is out of ideas, out of ammo, and she's just trying now to see what sticks, and that's a shame because she's a former public safety officer. As a Marine, I would say that's conduct unbecoming, and that's exactly what it is.
Earle-Sears also announced her endorsement from the Virginia Beach Police Benevolent Society.